Okay, hello friends. Hello everybody. So good to be with you. Okay, let me see if I can get everyone in the gallery. Wonderful. Okay, so welcome. Yeah, this is our second installation with COJECO of Life is a Song. It's a celebration of Russian Jewish stories and music and new contemporary music as well. And I want to start off. We're going to be sharing songs and stories. So I want to start off with a song that everyone is familiar with for May 9th, Tatyana Kalko by Mark Bernays. And I'm reading a very fascinating book called Shush. It's the story of a Russian Jew born in 1945, and how he had to keep quiet. And he didn't know his history so much. And from this book, I learned, it says, from the distance of more than half a century, recalling how the Jews were accused of cowardice during the war, I think of how much it would mean for me and other Jewish children to know how the Jews really did fight. And we all have family who fought, who, participated, and we all feel the effects of that generation. It says 500,000 Soviet Jews went to the battlefield. 200,000 of them never came home, giving up their lives in the struggle against the Nazis. The Jews fought heroically. Over 170,000 of them were awarded orders and medals, and about 150 Jewish fighters received the supreme military honor, Hero of the Soviet Union, which is higher than any other nationality. So please enjoy this first song. Темная ночь, только пули свистят по степи, только ветер гудит в проводах, тускло звезды мерцают. В темную ночь ты, любимая, знаю, не спишь, и у детской кроватки тайком ты слезу утираешь. Как я люблю глубину твоих ласковых глаз, как я хочу к ним прижаться теперь губами. Темная ночь разделяет, любимая, нас, и тревожная черная степь пролегла между нами. Верю в тебя, в дорогую подругу мою. Эта вера от пули меня темной ночью хранила. Радостно мне, я спокоен в смертельном бою. Знаю, встретишь любовью меня, чтоб со мной не случилось. Смерть не страшна, с ней не раз мы встречались в степи. Вот и сейчас надо мною она кружится. Ты меня ждешь, и у детской кроватки не спишь, и поэтому, знаю, со мной ничего не случится, ничего не случится, ничего не случится. Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? Все хорошо слышно? Okay. Это хорошо. Ну, после... Yeah, может, по-английски. After such a sad song, I want to share something a little bit more uplifting that everybody can relate to about love. And I have a story in my family about my great-grandfather, Aron Shapiro, and he served as a doctor in World War I in Minsk or outside of Minsk, and he was stationed at different people's homes. And this one home, there were older parents and a young girl, 18 years old, and they got along well. And then the war ended and he went back to Minsk. Now at that point he was 29, and at 29 he thought, I should settle down. It's time to settle down. So he thought, who did I meet in my travels that maybe I could start a family with? And he thought of this woman, Raya, 18 years old, and he thought he liked her because she could swim backwards. She could swim on her back across the river. She was responsible. She was good to her parents, and she went back and got her. And so I want to share another popular Yiddish Russian song, Tumbala, which is about this riddle of who should I be with, who is right for me, how do we know? I think it's very relatable, and it's a funny song, but also a lot of heart. Steht der Boche, steht und tracht a ganze Nacht. Wemmen zu nehmen und nicht verschämen, wemmen zu nehmen und nicht verschämen. Tumbala, tumbala, tumbalaika, tumbala, tumbala, tumbalaika, tumbalaika, spiel balalaika, tumbalaika, фрейлик soll sein. Думает парень ночь напролет, ту ли девчонку в жены берет. Можно влюбиться и ошибиться, ах, если всю правду знать наперед. Тумбала, тумбала, тумбалалайка, тумбала, тумбала, тумбалалайка, тумбалалайка, сердцу сыграй-ка, тумбалалайка, вместе с тобой. Слушай, девчонка, ты мне ответь, что может вечно, вечно гореть, что без дождя растет и в мороз, что может плакать, плакать без слез. Тумбала, тумбала, тумбалалайка, тумбала, тумбала, тумбалалайка, тумбалалайка, сердцу сыграй-ка, тумбалалайка, вместе с тобой. Парень, тебе я скажу, не шутя, камень растет без тепла и дождя. Вечно гореть любви суждено, плакать без слез может сердце одно. Тумбала, тумбала, тумбалайка, тумбала, тумбала, тумбалайка, тумбалайка, сердцу сыграй-ка, тумбалайка, вместе с тобой. Тумбала, тумбала, тумбалайка, тумбала, тумбала, тумбалайка, тумбалайка, сердцу сыграй-ка, тумбалайка, вместе с тобой. Of all the boys I've known, and I've known some, until I first met you I was lonesome. And then you came inside and my heart grew light, and this whole world seemed new to me. Yeah, really, so I have to admit you deserve expressions that really fit you. And so I racked my brain open to explain all the things that you do to me. Buy me if it's a shame. Please let me explain. Buy me if it's a shame. It means you're grand. Buy me if it's a shame. Again, I will explain. It means you're the fairest in the land. I could say Bella, Bella, even say wunderbar. Each language only goes to tell you how grand you are. I try to explain. By me, if it's a shame. So kiss me and say you'll understand. Oh, I could say Bella, Bella, yes, I wonder why each language only helps to tell you how grand you are. Try to explain. By me, if it's a shame. So kiss me and say you'll understand. I say you'll understand. I say understand. Спасибо большое. Okay, я хочу пригласить сейчас. I want to invite Yakov Vasilovich. I met him online, actually, when he was talking about being Jewish and what that meant to him. And it was so inspiring, his story and how he uses his family story in his music. And there's something we'll talk about later, but the Pintel Yid, like the Jewish spark that we all have, whether we know it or not, and then we follow, and we don't even know where the road goes, but we still follow it. So Yaakov, I want to share a little bit of his story and to sing us his original composition. Thank you so much, Yaakov.
Thank you so much, Tatyana, for having me, for inviting me to be here and to share with you my story, my family story. I was born in Częstochowa, Poland in 1988. And at that time, there was no Jewish schools, there was no Jewish chedorim, preschools in Poland. So my mother sent me to a public, regular Polish preschool and then public school. And I remember when I was about 5 years old, I came home back from preschool and I told my mother what the teacher told us that day. I said, Mom, tomorrow we cannot eat meat. We are going to church and the priest is going to pour ashes over our heads. So my mother said to me, Kuba, my Polish name is Kuba, K-U-B-A, Kuba. She said, Kuba, I have something to tell you, sit down. If you do not want to eat meat tomorrow, no problem. I will not give you meat to eat, but you will not go to church. So I asked, why not? So she told me, because you are Jewish. So from that moment on, I knew that I'm Jewish, but I didn't know what it means to be Jewish. My mother told me to keep this as a secret, not to tell anyone. But of course, what does a child do when it's told to keep a secret? I told one friend, and the next day, all my friends were calling me a dirty Jew, spitting at me. So they told me not to tell anyone anymore who I am, that I'm Jewish. But I wanted to learn what it means to be Jewish. But there was no rabbi, there was no Jewish school in my city. My mother was a child of 2 Holocaust survivors. They survived the Częstochowa ghetto and labor camp and Lodz ghetto. And after the war, they still tried to keep anything that they were able to. And whatever they were able to keep, that's what they taught to my mother, and my mother taught to me. She was the source for my Jewish education. But it was just a little bit that she knew, I wanted to learn more. The second source for my Jewish education was a summer and winter camp in Poland called Lauder Camp. It was a camp that was established by Lauder Foundation at the end of 80s, beginning of 90s. And the goal of the Lauder Foundation was to educate Jews in Europe. And one of the countries was Poland. And this Ronald Lauder, who is right now the head of the World Jewish Congress, he was, he's the son of Estee Lauder, the makeup company. He wanted to be famous for something else. He wanted to be famous for something of his own. So he created this Lauder Foundation to educate Jews in Europe. So in Poland, I went to this summer camp and winter camp with my mother. I learned Jewish songs and about Jewish holidays. But after the camp, I would go back to public school. When I was about 12 years old, my mother started to think about my bar mitzvah. She wanted me to learn, be prepared for my bar mitzvah. So she called Rabbi Shudrich, who at that time was rabbi of two big cities in Poland, Warsaw and Lodz. And today he's the chief rabbi of Poland. And she asked him, Rabbi, can you prepare my son for bar mitzvah? So he said, sure. But does he have a bris? Is he circumcised? So she told him, no. There was no Moel living in Poland, in Częstochowa, in our city at that time. So I was never circumcised. So the rabbi said, no, he has to be circumcised first. So he called famous Moel for months in New York, Rabbi Fisher, who travels to Russia and to other countries to circumcise older Jews that never were circumcised. And he asked him, can you come to Poland? There is a boy, 12 years old, and he needs to have a bris. So the rabbi said, sure. We traveled by train for 3 hours to Warsaw, and we were told that this Rabbi Fisher, this Moel, couldn't come. Something happened with his plane. So we went back to Częstochowa, and a few days later, we got a phone call from Rabbi Shudrich that this time Rabbi Fisher for sure will come. We should come back to Warsaw. So we did. And when we got to Warsaw, before we entered the synagogue where the bris was supposed to take place, we stopped in this Yiddish theater that used to be in the Jewish quarter over there in Warsaw. And when we entered the building, my mother saw her friend. Her friend was surprised. What are we doing in Warsaw? We are from Częstochowa. What are we doing in Warsaw? So my mother told her, my son is going to have a bris. So she took me on the side and said, don't do it. Don't do it. It's like chopping off your arm. It's terrible. What are you doing? So I got a little scared, but I told her that I'm a Jewish boy, and if a Jewish boy needs to have a bris, needs to be circumcised, I want to be circumcised. And so we went to the synagogue, and we met with the rabbi, Rabbi Fisher, there. And a minute later, Hasidim from nowhere appeared in the synagogue. They were coming back from Yortzeit of Rav Elimelech of Lezhensk, and I never saw Hasidim in my life. All of a sudden, Hasidim came to the synagogue, started to dance and sing, and they see that there is something going on in the room at the end of the synagogue, and they see it's a bris. But it's not a bris of a baby, it's a bris of a bigger baby. And one of the Hasidim decided to become a sandik. And it's like a godfather to, usually when the father is not around, he holds the baby, but here he couldn't hold me. So he held my head and he asked me, do I want to change my name? So I didn't know that I have to pick a name. I already had a name, so I said, no, I have a name already. Years later, I found out that this hostel wanted to name me Yaakov, and my mother already named me after her father, whose name was Yankel, and in Hebrew, it's Yaakov. So that just meant that the name that my mother gave me was the right name. Eventually, I had bar mitzvah. Rabbi Shudrich, the chief rabbi of Poland, spoke to one of the rabbis who would come to Poland to this camp, Lauder camp, to educate Polish Jews. And he asked him if I can be sent to Moldova, Kishinev, to have a bar mitzvah there. This rabbi, Rabbi Lieber, used to have a yeshiva there. So I was sent to Moldova, to Kishinev, and I had a bar mitzvah there. And after the bar mitzvah, they heard that I love music. They wanted me to stay in that yeshiva to study, but my mother would have to go back to Poland. I was only 13 years old. I didn't want to stay by myself, so we went back to Poland. At some point, we were invited to come to Warsaw for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We came, we prayed in the synagogue, and after Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, I asked Rabbi Shudrich if he can help me to move to Warsaw. There's a Jewish community there, there's a synagogue. In Częstochowa, there's nothing really there. My mother was the head of the Jewish community there, but the community was very small, about 10 people. So I wanted to learn what it means to be Jewish. So he said, I'll see what I can do. And few weeks later, we got a phone call. Rabbi Shudrich found us a place. We can move to Warsaw, and I can attend the Jewish school, Lauder School in Warsaw. And we moved to Warsaw. At some point, we got a phone call that this Chassid, my Sandek, was coming to Poland. He wanted to meet with me. He sent a private driver to bring me to where there was a bus full of Hasidim waiting for me to take me to Lezhensk. It was a yahrzeit of Rav Melech of Lezhensk, and the Hasidim were traveling there. He wanted me to come with him. So I did, and again, this was the second time I saw Hasidim in my life. And in this city of Lezhensk, where this big rabbi is buried, this Hasidim came, I came with them, and we spent Shabbos there, and this whole city was just out of this world. It was, I was not used to seeing such a scene. Thousands of Hasidim just dancing in one room. The floor was shaking. It was unbelievable. And so after the Shabbos, I thanked this rabbi for inviting me. I went back to Warsaw, and he wrote on a little piece of paper. He wanted me to come to America, to Muncie, to visit him for Pesach. So I said, thank you so much, but I knew in my mind that I don't have money to afford for a ticket. But I thanked him, and I said goodbye. And sometime later, I got a phone call from Rabbi Shudrich that this rabbi, this Sandek of mine, sent him a ticket for me to come to America to visit him. And I came, and I spent Pesach with him. And afterwards, I went to visit my rabbi, this rabbi that I knew from Lauder camp. And I told him, I'm finishing this Jewish school in Warsaw. What should I do? I don't know where to go. I want to continue my Jewish education. He said he will try to bring me to America. And so he did. I came to America. And when I came to a yeshiva in Baltimore, Talmudical Academy of Baltimore. But because I never learned Torah before, they said, okay, you'll go to second grade. You'll learn Chumash, the 5 books of Moses, and you will catch up slowly. You'll go to next grade. So that's what I did. I went to second grade. I sat with little boys, 6, 7-year-old boys. I learned Chumash for the first time. Then I went to 4th grade and 6th grade and 8th grade, 10th grade and 12th grade. And I always make a joke that in 4 years, I graduated from elementary school, middle school, and high school. So after that, after I graduated high school, I went to Far Rockaway, to yeshiva there, continued my studies. And I also started to compose some songs. And I recently released a few of my new songs that I composed. And, if you would like to hear one of them, I can play for you. Yes? So this song is called Akeda. It's about most probably the hardest test of our forefather Abraham Avinu, when God told him to take his son Isaac and bring him as a sacrifice for God. Of course, God didn't really want him to sacrifice his son, but he didn't know that. It was a test. And many times in life, we go through tests, and it's dark, and we don't know what God wants from us. So the words are, Vayisa Avraham es Einav, Avraham raised his eyes, Vayares Hamakom Mirochak, he saw that place where the Akeda was supposed to take place. And we know that God is also called Makom. God is also called place, because everywhere we go, every place we go, that's where God is. God is everywhere, in every place. So deeper meaning of these words is that Abraham saw God from far, meaning he didn't know what God wanted from him. It seemed like God is so far from him. He's so far away from God, and he didn't understand what God wanted from him. It was so dark. But then next words are, Hineni bini. I am with you, my son. God is always with us. We have to remember that. And that's the message we have to always carry with us. So Avraham Eseino Yares Amako Meirocho Vaiso Avraham Eseino Yares Amako So Abraham Eseino Yares Amako Meirocho Vaiso Abraham Eseino Yares Amako Meirocho Vayomer, Hineni. Vayomer, Hineni beni. Vayomer, Hineni beni. Vayelhu shneihem yachdav. Vayomer, Hineni. Vayomer, Hineni beni. Vayomer, Hineni beni.
Thank you so much, Yaakov. Wasn't that such an inspiring story, what it means to be Jewish, to pursue something you don't even know what that leads you? I just received a message in the chat from someone who said, both my grandparents were Russian. My grandmother's parents were, my great-grandfather fought against the Nazis, was saved because a general heard him sing and pulled him from the front lines. So actually, that's a perfect segue into our next guest, Vitaly Rachman, who I had the pleasure of interviewing. He's a local Philly resident. I'm from Philly originally. My parents live in Philadelphia, who's the owner of a Russian newspaper, Russian Jewish newspaper there, and is a poet and an artist. And he told me that many times his art, actually, his ability to draw and paint saved him on numerous occasions. So Vitaly, could you please unmute yourself? And I want you to maybe say a few words about what it was like being an artist in the Soviet Union, and how you followed that Jewish spark in your art.
Вы слышите меня?
Да.
Я могу смешнее историю рассказать, как я был circumcised. 49 лет. Я приехал в Израиль к знаменитому Ребе Зильберу. Это был один из выдающихся русскоязычных рабаев. Вот. И я ему сказал, что Ребе Зильбер, я хочу быть circumcised. Ну, мы с ним до этого были мимоходом знакомы, но тут он вдруг усомнился и говорит: а ты еврей? А я был с моей дочерью, потому что у нее была бат-мицва тоже в это время. Вот. Я говорю: конечно, я еврей. Он говорит: а твоя мама еврейка? Я говорю: конечно, моя мама еврейка. Он говорит: ну дай телефон. А он болел, лежал в кровати и говорит: сейчас я ей позвоню. И вот из Израиля... Алло, вы меня видите, слышите?
Видим и слышим, видим и слышим.
И вот из Израиля он звонит моей маме. И он звонит, говорит: здравствуйте, это Ребе Зильбер из Израиля. Моя мама сразу: что случилось с моим сыном? Да он говорит: ничего, он хочет circumcised. Да зачем ему это надо? Ребе говорит: все, спасибо большое. Я верю, что твоя мама еврейка. И на этом все было покончено, и я прошел обряд обрезания 49 лет. в Израиле, в центре Иерусалима. Так началась моя официальная жизнь как полноценного еврея в Америке. А как художника, конечно, я был художником еще с детства. Я всегда рисовал, я учился с детских лет там в пионерском, во дворце пионеров и прочее. Но когда я вырос и стал уже серьезным и работал уже художником-конструктором, меня не устраивала та ограниченность свободы, которую имели художники в России. И когда я услышал, что в Измайловском парке будет продолжение выставки, которая была подавлена в Беляево, в Москве, в Беляево-Новгородском, которая считается бульдозерной выставкой, вот, то я примкнул инстинктивно и пошел туда. И у меня были несколько работ, которые явно не понравились советской власти. Они очень серьезно следили за всем, что там происходило. Ну и после этой выставки, правда, прогрессировав в статье «Вечерняя Москва», что такие художники, как Рабин, Рахман,
Виталий, you're muted. Вас не слышно. Вас не слышно. This happens from time to time.
Вы себя поставили, вы выключили себе микрофон.
мют.
Вот. Да.
Да, все.
Мы вас
Спасибо.
слышим, но не
Это не
видим.
я себя отбил, это когда мне позвонили, автоматически отбит. А вы меня видите?
Мы вас не видим.
Это еще одна проблема.
Ну, да.
Уже видим.
Уже видите. Спасибо большое. Ну вот, и я примкнул, так сказать, стихийно к этому движению в Измайлово, и после этого оказался в Сибири, так сказать, в Алтайском крае, в Семипаладинске под Новый год. Меня туда, как солдата, уже, хотя я отслужил, загнали второй раз. В общем, я прошел эти дантовые круги и участвовал во всех квартирных выставках. А когда появилась возможность уехать в Америку, я, конечно, моментально уехал. Это так вкратце о моих хождениях по всяким этим вот еврейским мукам. Если что-то кого-то интересует, я с удовольствием могу рассказать какие-то детали или интересные вещи из событий, но понимаю, что время ограничено.
Виталий, да. Спасибо. Я хотела выступить. Виталий, вышла книга поэзии, у него несколько, из райского сада. И мне одна поэзия очень понравилась, конечно, многие про любовь. Many of the poems.
Это лирический сборник, это лирический сборник.
Лирический. But even in the love poems, there's a forlorn feeling, there's a sadness and a sweetness. It's very bittersweet. It's very Jewish to me. So this is a sort of jazz interpretation of one of Vitaly Rahman's poems. Мне кажется, все это сон, все просто однажды приснилось, что я ни в кого не влюблен, что это непрошенный вирус, и встретил твоих карих глаз, и горло мне страсть не сжимала, все бред, лихорадка, мираж, смерть жизнь у меня целовала. Ярам, ярам, ярарарарарам, ярарарарарам. Все бред, лихорадка, мираж. Смерть, жизнь у меня целовала. Так сладко, мучительный сон, в нем плыть, никогда не проснуться. В объятиях твоих утону, любовью твоей захлебнуться, любовью твоей захлебнуться, любовью твоей захлебнуться, любовью твоей захлебнуться. Спасибо, Виталий, за такую красивую лирику. Thank you, Vitaly, so much for such beautiful, heartfelt poetry. So I think I will pass it on to Sasha Papernik. I had the pleasure, am I saying that right? Or Papernik? I had the pleasure of interviewing her mother about their life. And I want to let Sasha maybe share a little bit about your family life and share some beautiful songs with us. She's a first generation singer, songwriter, pianist, and with her husband is in a band called Our Band.
Yes, yeah. Well, thank you for organizing it. It's really fun to be part of this today. And yes, you had a beautiful interview with my mom, and I tried to write lyrics, and I think it's going to take me a little bit longer than a couple days to do. I got really deep into it, and so I've got to hone them a little bit more before performing the song about my mom. But it's really interesting because I think it takes someone that's not from the family to really get all of the truth out, because I think if I interviewed my mom, I know those stories, but I don't know everything about the stories. So that was really neat. Anyway, my mom and dad immigrated from Moscow in 1975 and then 1978, and I was born here. I was the first one to be. Oh, look, my dad is on, and he says, "Speak Russian, please." Мои родители эмигрировали из России. Я здесь родилась, всегда говорила по-русски дома с ними. И сейчас я пишу и по-английски, и по-русски мои песни. Я хотела вам сейчас сыграть песню без слов. Это вальс, который я сочинила для моей бабушки. Называется «Вальс для Анны». It's just for piano. You ready? Okay, here it is. And that's it.
That was incredible, Sasha.
Thank you.
So cinematic, so beautiful.
I actually originally wrote it for a movie, and if you haven't seen this movie, it's wonderful. It's about a Russian Jewish girl who grows up in Brookline near Boston, and I'm from Massachusetts too. The movie's called Pinsky, so I wrote it for a movie. If you have a chance, check it out online. I think you can find it. It's called Pinsky.
Wow, we definitely will. I want to share a couple more songs. Thank you everyone for being here. I wrote now I'm not a great piano player like Sasha, but I wrote a little nigun, wordless melody, and put it to piano, really in dedication to my grandmother who passed away this year. She was 92, Babushka Lena. And really the refugee experience during the war, as my great grandfather writes in his memoir, it was just such a harrowing time. Their children were lost for almost two years with other families. Thankfully, there were strangers who helped and took the children in because they were separated due to various circumstances. But as God would have it, they were reunited. It's really a miraculous kind of thing. So this is a nigun for them. Thank you. And I also want to share a popular song, a Yiddish mama, but I want to sing it to my grandmother, a Yiddish baba, just a cappella. It's such a beautiful melody. A Yiddish baba. Es gibt nicht besser auf der Welt. A jüdischer Baba, oi wie bitter, wenn sie fällt. wie schön in Lichten ist in Häus, wenn die Baba ist da. Wie treurig finster wird, wenn Gott nimmt die Reue voll am Habo. Мои Шабаба, другой такой на свете нет. Мои Шабаба, ты с нами рядом столько лет. И за нас ты забыла покой, посидела голова. Словно в детстве нас гладишь рукой, шепчешь милые слова. Нет сердца нежнее, чем сердце матери родной. Ничто не согреет, как жар души ее святой. I long to hold her hands as in days gone by and ask her to forgive me for things I did that made her cry. How few were her treasures. She never cared for fashion styles. Her jewels and treasures, she found them in a baby's eyes. Oh, I know that I owe what I am today to that dear little lady so old and gray, to that dear little Yiddish Baba, Baba of mine. Thank you so much. So I have maybe one song more. This is a really special treat. I wrote a song. After I spoke to a Russian Jewish cab driver, and he gave me all this kind of life advice. He told me about his life story a little bit. And as I was interviewing other people, you know, I think people have a similar kind of story. So for instance, someone I interviewed, Sophia, she said they didn't want us, right? The Jews, they didn't want us, but they didn't want to give us away either. They didn't want to give us away for free. That was the predicament. She said many became sick with stress over not being allowed to leave. They sold what they had, and maybe besides a futon and a few chairs, they had nothing, and they became sick. They didn't get to see this land or leave that land, which kind of reminds me of the Israelites walking and, you know, generation dying in the desert. But luckily, many did get to see the promised land. And so I wrote an anthem for Russian Jewish refugees. And I also had the great privilege of having a dancer create a piece for this. So I want to show you the piece that she created, and I will play alongside it. Dancer is Asya Zlatina from Philadelphia. She has a wonderful company. So let me do a screen share. I also want to say, with all of these kind of sad stories, really the one thing that everyone shares is this gratitude for their country and all of the opportunities, gratitude for their family, and really quite a happy childhood. I have to say that really surprised me that so many people expressed having a happy kind of childhood amidst all of the turmoil that was going on and the difficulties. So let me share my screen. Okay. For some reason, let's see.
You should be able to.
Yeah. Ah, there it is. Okay, you can all see this? Yep. Okay, great. So this is Asya Zlatina in a modern dance. Okay. Mama, they don't want us. Pack your bags, we're leaving now. You can't take it with you. There's a maximum allowance. Hashem, my life is in your hands, even though I don't believe. We're heading to a place they call land of the free, but there are Russian Jewish refugees just like me. Russian Jewish refugees. Russian Jewish refugees longing to be free. Refugees just like me. Refugees just like me. Let's pray for no more wars, God willing, with His help. We made a house, a humble home, and paid for it ourselves. Imagine it came without a penny. Learn the maps of all New York. This hard life's been good to me. My faith has been restored. 'Cause there are Russian Jewish refugees just like me. Russian Jewish refugees. Russian Jewish refugees longing to be free. Refugees just like me. Refugees just like me. This cabbie once blessed me with a happy, healthy life. He said the world's in front of you, you don't need struggle or strife. Miracles can happen, now you've heard mine. And then he dropped me off at 40th and 9th. He was a Russian Jewish refugee, just like me. A Russian Jewish refugee. Russian Jewish refugee, longing to be free. Refugee just like a Russian Jewish refugee, just like me. A Russian Jewish refugee. A Russian Jewish refugee, longing to be free. A refugee just like me. A refugee just like me. And now we are free. Wasn't that so cute? It was just a perfect embodiment of this journey, I think. And yes, thank you to Asya. So thank you everyone for joining. I'm so happy to get to share this music, and there's much more music really that that I hope to get to share at another point. And thank you, Yaka, Vitali, Sasha. I hope everyone felt a connection to their roots, to their homeland, and you know, thank you, COJECO. Thank you, Alina and Roman, for organizing everything and making this possible.
We're very, very honored to have you as part of our COJECO Blueprint Fellowship and are excited to see what else you have in store for us. And for anyone and everyone here, do check out COJECO website and whether it's about Blueprint or any and all other programs that we're currently running as the central hub for Russian-speaking Jewish community in New York and New Jersey. Thank you so much, and thank you, Tanya. This was brilliant.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for your comments as well. I'm glad you enjoyed it.